Lights, cameras, action. Now let's engage in the dialogue. Let me browse through your mind like a catalog. Conscious metaphysics, allow me to break down the specifics. Educate, motivate. If you don't feel free, you can liberate. An LLC is what I'm building, the #1 podcast in the building. So let me slide on up in the Bentley truck in my Versace shirts. They can't get enough of this deep conversation, expansion, elevation. I'll send you a link you can tap in. It ain't quite what I used to do back then. Now I get it on the front and the back end. Multiple money streams keep coming in. Enlighten, empower, evolve. Enlighten, empower, evolve.
Just in time. Greetings, I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved. I know everyone's doing well and everything is unfolding perfectly. I'm excited yet again because I have an amazing guest, another amazing guest. Always have amazing guests, and today is no exception. Today's guest embarked on his coaching journey over 3 decades ago, initially specializing in vocal and performance coaching. This early phase served as the fertile ground upon which he cultivated his unique approach to life coaching, what he called empowerment made simple. Through extensive work with diverse clientele, he crafted a transformative methodology that uncovers hidden barriers to personal growth, equipping his clients with actionable plans to achieve unprecedented success. And there's a whole lot more here. But without further ado, let me introduce to you Roger Burnley. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing so well. And you said all the perfect things in the very beginning. And the first one is the timing is always right. And we're always on time. Everything in our life is aligned. When we first spoke and we were maybe going to do the session a few days ago, and I said, oh, well, maybe that'll be perfect because I said that was the solstice. But then we had to change it to today, and it was even more perfect. Because see, today the message that came through is that you can love yourself more.
Wow.
That's why we're all here, and to understand the perfection of our lives and how we contribute to the upliftment, the evolvement of our world the timing of that could not be more important as on this day. We are moving into a little different dimension of ourselves and
Right.
in our world. And that's all the work that I have been bringing forth. And as you said, in that the transformational work, which is turned into your life operating instructions, which was the craziest thing because I didn't know that my life was going to bring me here, which most people don't know who they're going to evolve to become. But that
Right.
is why we need certain guidance, and we get it all the time. But sometimes it shows up in ways that we don't understand. But
Absolutely.
main thing is that coming to that understanding that every soul, every person born does so with purpose and worth that develops over time.
Wow. Beautifully orchestrated. Thank you, Mr. Burnley. That is beautiful. And it's reassuring, as well, in my perspective, that everything does unfold perfectly. And it may not seem like it at the time, but everything is meant to, what I found that everything is meant to elevate us to the next level and meant to help us expand and grow and become more conscious and just to sharpen us, our characters and everything. And when you look at it beautifully like that, especially with what you said to highlight that, it just makes life more incredible when you look at it that way. And life is about mindset. So it's the way you look at it and the way you perceive everything, if you will. And that's just absolutely amazing. So let's get into what I want to talk about too is I'm curious about is you were a vocal performance coach. Give us a little insight on that, how that began and what you were
That's
actually. I mean, I know vocal, but give us a little. Insight on.
That is the crazy part of the journey, but it'll help everyone. It'll make sense for everyone. When I was a kid, because we discover our talents and gifts as we, grow up, as we evolve, as we live our lives. When I was 12 years old, I was in grammar school, and a coach came to our grammar school to interview us basically for high school,
Right.
and they gave us these kind of tests to see if we could sing. And I didn't never thought about singing before, but I said, let me see. And I thought that the coach said to me, well, your voice isn't quite right. I go,
Hmm.
what? And it was like he was saying my voice was too high or something because I was this
Right.
kid. I didn't understand it. But as a kid and as a 12-year-old kid, a kind of judgment that you're given when you think that you are not enough or you can't live up to something, it impacts you. And
Right.
so I didn't understand that it was impacting me, but it did. And
Right.
it caused me to kind of withhold my voice. But then when I got to high school, the same choir director that I thought had told me that something was wrong with my voice started all of a sudden saying, oh, you're great. You can do all of these different things. Me believing that, no, I wasn't going to accept that because he had already accepted that I was less than. And I thought that he had told me that. And
Wow.
so, but he kept pushing me all the way through high school, even to the point where he had me go and I was living in Chicago at the time, and he had me said, you're going to go to the all city chorus. I go,
Hmm.
I'm not supposed to do that because see that the all city chorus is where they took all the best singers from the high schools and made one chorus. I
Hmm.
was so intimidated that I would not show up to rehearsals. Our rehearsals were Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock. I would oversleep. My mother would have to shake me out of bed because I was thinking I am not good enough to do
Right.
this.
Right.
So
That
then I let,
first, that first
yes,
initial, and excuse me, Roger,
yes,
that first impact was planted in your head.
yes,
So yes.
yes.
Okay.
So it was about breaking through that, do you know? And then I
Right.
let go of it. For
Right.
years, I did all, graduated, high school, went to college for a bit. I did all of that stuff and went into my career. I was doing all kinds of jobs, so many different jobs over that time.
Right.
And I guess I should say this because I want people to understand this whole journey because I'm 73 now, and
Oh
I just
wow.
need people to understand that this has been a long time. So anyway,
Right.
so I went through all of that, and then in 1988, I I had moved to I was living in New York. I moved back to Chicago. I mean, moved back. I moved to Los Angeles in 82, but in 1988, I decided I'm going back to singing
Hmm.
had put it away for all of these years. And so then I got with this one coach who said, you have to coach now. I go, no, I can't do that.
Right.
I did the same
Wow.
thing again. I am not good enough. I can't do this. And so then he finally said, you must, because you know more than anyone who's going to come to you. And then I said, but no, you're the great one. I couldn't do that. He
Right.
says, no, you must understand. I got all of my information from my coach in New York when I was there. I took all that information, I put my stamp on it, and then I gave it back to others. And he says,
Right.
you will do the same thing, and you will be better than me one day. And I
Wow.
looked at him and I go, what do you mean? I couldn't be better than you. And so then we get to understand that we accept limitations, not understanding
Right.
that we are all meant to evolve and we accept information that came before. We put our stamp on it as we're living this life and we cause
Right.
things to become better.
Right.
So then years later, I did that. I created this business. I started to coach all kinds of people and made people became stars. I'm going, how is that happening for me who thought I could do nothing? And
Right.
then I met a person in 2009 in Australia.
Hmm.
And he says, I want to take you bigger. I want to put you on the map. I go, what are you talking about? He said, I've seen your work and I want you to put this information out to more people. And so I said, okay, fine, let's see what happens. And we created a program called Singing Made Simple. I had no idea what it was going to do, but it started changing lives, changing voices, changing all of that. But the
Wow.
interesting thing that happened through that entire journey, when I was coaching people for 35 years, I'm doing vocal coaching. And what I
Right.
got in touch with was the withhold that people have in accepting who they are. And
Wow.
many times it shows up in their voices.
Wow. They don't
When you,
uh they don't totally embrace the greatness
yeah,
that they have and that they are.
yes, yes. But I lived my whole life doing that, so I could see it very clearly, you know?
Right, right.
Mm,
And that's why I believe, not I believe, but I know just by your testimony, that's one of the reasons why one of your purposes, you know, to go through that so that you could see that in other people and help them
yes,
eradicate that and become who they're really meant to be. And
yep,
that's amazing how that works, how the design of our life unfolds that way. To
yes.
and what I'm saying is we go through things first and
Hmm.
then we pass it along. We're able to help other people from a deeper perspective.
Right.
And that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing, Roger. And thank you
Now,
for
and
sharing that. Go ahead.
and that coach that I mentioned, I don't know. He's probably in his late 80s or maybe close to 90 now. He's still working. He's still
Oh,
he's
wow.
living.
Wow.
He
That's his
lives in
passion. That's his
Sweden.
passion.
Yes, he
Yes.
lives in Sweden, but he's still doing it. And I think about those words that he told me in 1988, and this is what I say to all of my clients now. You will do, because they look at me and think, oh, well, you've done all this. I go, nope, you'll do more
No.
than me, because that's how it's
Wow.
supposed to work.
Encouragement. Very
Yeah.
empowering as well. Yeah. So let's transition to what you're doing now
Mhm.
in regard to coaching. So
Mhm.
how did this develop and what type of coaching are you doing now?
The coaching I'm doing now is guiding people to own who they are, their authentic selves, because that's why they were
Right.
born. And it's
Right.
all the trauma that we must move through in our lives. We all
Wow.
have it.
You
We
said a
were
key
born
word.
with,
Sorry. I apologize for
no, no, God.
interrupting you, but trauma, there you go. No, that's
Yes.
yes. I'm go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have it. You're right.
Yes.
Hmm.
And so okay, you said how to start. When I in 2020, well, it started a little bit before that because I started changing my business several years ago because I knew the world was changing
Right.
and that we needed to have a lot more awareness, understanding, love, acceptance. And
Right.
so in 2020, the pandemic had started, but I knew that we were moving through an evolutionary change that we had never done before. And so I started receiving information that was different than what I had done before. Let me go back. In 1988, I also started doing automatic writing, which
Mm.
means I would sit and meditate every day and I would receive cosmic guidance and information. And it was crazy to me. And I didn't even tell people about it in the beginning because it was frightening. The reason I started it because I was moving into this new career. I'm freaked out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I had no resources, money, or I didn't have any of that put away, but I knew I was supposed to do this new career. And I read an article about automatic writing where you could receive other information. I said, okay, great. I'll try that. I needed
Right.
something. And after a few days, I started like hearing something and then I started writing. And it was if my hand was being guided by something I didn't know. And
Absolutely.
it was a little uncomfortable at first, but I said the information I was receiving was causing me to feel better. So I said, okay, I'll keep going with this. And
Right.
then over time, I started noticing that things that I was moving through in my life, physical things. I was healing. I was
Mm.
healing so many things, and I had a lot of trauma. I moved through so many things, and but this information was moving me through it. But I didn't want to tell people because I said they're not going to believe this. This is the other thing that happens. Our self-doubt and our self-belief is just always challenging because we come into the world to offer something that's unique and different. So
Right.
holding on to that belief becomes sometimes a little challenging. So
Yes.
I didn't want to tell people. I'm writing these all the time. But then in 2008, I believe it was, or somewhere around in there, someone came into my office and found one of the writings. Like I wrote them every day and I saved them. Didn't know why I was doing that either. But
Right.
something said, save these. And because we will all have intuition, but trusting it at
Right.
times
Right.
is can be, a little difficult. So this person said, "Well, these are really helping me." They read the message that I had on my desk, and I said, "Well, yeah, I wrote it, and it comes through every day." And they said, "Please, send them to me." And I did. I started this little group. I was on AOL at that time. That's all I had.
AOL. Yes.
And so I created this little group message, and I would just send this to this small group of people. Then a little while later, someone said, "You should create a website." So they created this website called Any Advice for Today. So I did that for a longest time. But then over time, I said, I need to go a little bit bigger. So in 2019, I wrote a book called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to
Overcoming
Freedom.
fear.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I started to understand so many of the messages were about dealing with fear. And I
Right.
had
Right.
experienced so much fear in my life. And I know, yes, you get it.
Yes.
I know how that can hold you back. And so I that's why but it was incredibly difficult for me to put the book out. And I talked about it quite honestly. I said I wanted to publish the book, but for a while, but I had one problem. That was fear.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I resonate with that. Even though I don't want to give it any more power than it's already had.
Yes,
Yes. And I believe a lot of people can resonate with that too. But
yes.
yes, overcoming fear. And I want you to continue to go on about this. But just to hit a pause button, is that
Mhm.
book still available? And if so,
Oh
where?
yeah.
Where?
You can on Amazon. People can look at my website, but they can also get it on Amazon.
Okay.
So yeah, it is
Overcoming Fear
available.
by Roger Burnley.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we got that out there because that book is still, and I think will always be relevant.
Yes. And so what I was given was like, this was a lead up to where we are now in our lives and in our world.
Right.
Because people are feeling this kind of something's different in the world. Something has changed. Something has happened.
Yes.
So then
Yes.
in 2020, I started receiving different kinds of messages that freaked me out. And they said, my guide said, you'll be moving through a restructuring in your world. And I go, what? So yeah, you're going to create a new world. And it's going to
Mm,
look very different. But to get to that new world, you have to break down what was old. And that old that existed within you, that existed within all beings, existed within all humans, so you can create something better, meaning a world that is more loving, that is more inclusive, that is more accepting. And it's telling me, and so if you're in the world now, then your obligation, which is the other message they kind of give me, your obligation is self-love. Because
wow.
see, that's the highest form of energy that
Yes.
any of us could embody,
Yes.
and which is what is needed now. And then
Yes.
they said, and all of these things were, I started writing these things, and I was like a little uncomfortable because this is the information I'm receiving. But I thought people are not going to maybe not understand this because they said the United States is going to see the biggest change. It is going to go through these changes, and it's going to be, you'll see conflict, you'll see
Right.
just all of that, but it's about breaking down the old ways of being so you can create something new. And that has to come through each person. You see,
Wow.
it's not just one, we're not, no one person is manifesting the world. We do that collectively.
Collectively. Wow. Yes.
And that's what I had to come to understand. So then they said, we gave you, the story got crazier because they said, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. I said, that made no sense. But then they started relating, well, you are all an extension of consciousness that has existed throughout time, every single person.
Yes.
And there's certain time periods throughout our civilization that we can see changes in civilization. They started having me look back at history to see where we move through things in history that seem challenging and crazy and difficult. Like we can think about wars and things that have happened in the past, but they're always for the purpose of bringing us to a higher understanding of who we each are, who we're meant to become. And then they
Right.
said, none of you are meant to be less than another. And that's the thing we keep figuring out throughout civilization. And
Wow.
the other day, and I'll leave this because they said, we want most people to understand this. You cannot love yourself and hate another. And you cannot hate yourself and love another.
Wow. Say that again.
You cannot love yourself and hate another, and you cannot hate yourself and love another, because
Wow.
both concepts are just the opposite of human existence. You
Wow.
each come into the world to evolve and become more. So you can't accept yourself as being less than another, and you can't see yourself as being more than another.
Wow. Yes, that's very powerful, Roger. I think I'm going to write that down. Yes, I think I'm going to write that down. That's
And
amazing.
and
Go
this is
ahead.
the other thing, and I want your listeners to understand this too, because we are seeing this what feels like this huge division that's happening everywhere
Right.
in our world. But
Right.
it's and they said the restructuring is about creating a new balance. And this is why you'll see more women, like the divine feminine has become more important in the world now, because
Right.
see, that energy is about nurturing, it's about loving, and we each have it. Men just haven't embodied enough of it, maybe, because that's basically our nature. And so, but now it's a different time where we need to understand things. And they kept saying, you're going to, and what they gave me was like, you're going to see difficulties, and you might bring back leaders. They said you might have wars, you might bring back other leaders like a Hitler.
Right.
And I said, and I can't say this. This was in 2020 that this information I'm writing and receiving, and then we start seeing it. See, because this was before we had the war in Iraq. I mean, the
Right.
war in Ukraine.
Ukraine.
That was
Right.
This was before that, and it was before the current conflict in Israel and Gaza. But they were
Wow.
saying that we wanted you to see these are very old
Right.
ideologies that are still fighting the same war.
Yes. Yes. That's wow. That information is powerful. And I'm still I'm still focusing on not focusing on, but still wowed by what you said. You cannot love yourself and hate another and hate someone else and love yourself. That's amazing. And it makes, especially where I am in my current level of consciousness, that makes so much sense because we are a collective and we are of the same uh, universe. We are all different expressions. Yes,
Right.
and until we really get to that and really let that sink in, and our actions and thoughts reflect that, we're not going to get it right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not going to get it right. So we need to
Uh,
understand. Quit. We're fighting against ourselves when we're fighting against someone, even though they may not look like you, even though you're still fighting against yourself, and it's not
yes.
going to go anywhere.
I'll tell you another thing. And this was so challenging, but I keep, because I received the information, I have to keep pushing through, because in
Right.
2016, they wanted me to write an article. I said, I can't do this, but I did it anyway. And it said,
You should
and
know
the
by
art,
now the word can't shouldn't even be in your vocabulary, Roger. You can do everything, man.
and so they said the title of the because it made no sense when people looked at it. I said, I might be slightly racist with misogynistic tendencies.
Wow.
And there people are looking at me go, why are you talking about this? Why are you writing about this? I said, because I recognize that I had those ideologies within me.
Right.
Where did it come from? And so I had to look at my history and go, oh, it was taught to me.
Right.
I was taught
Exactly.
that women weren't enough. That was an
Right.
old belief that we've carried on, and we're still doing it now. You see,
Right.
that's what has happened. And then and then I was taught that certain races were different or not
Right.
enough.
Right.
And that's what we kind of have embodied in our overall collective consciousness, let's say. And
Right.
and they said, this is what you are changing now during this period. Yes, it's going to look a little chaotic. You'll
Right.
have conflict, but conflict will bring unity.
Right.
That's what happens
Yes.
throughout civilization.
Exactly. And that's amazing that you say that because I believe, or I know, I like to say that I graduated from just believing to knowing,
You're
which
like
is
Carl
that,
Jung.
Yes, yes, yes. Carl Jung, yes. To knowing that part of what I'm doing, the work here with this podcast is the same thing.
Yes,
And because I've had people, and I won't name any names, ask me, "Oh, shouldn't just this be an all black podcast? You have white people on here too." And I'm like, I'm here uh, to awaken a collective because we
yes,
all are. And in order to do that, I get uh, perspectives and wisdom and knowledge from everyone. This is where I'm going with this too. Yes, I have my people, but I also have my tribe, and my
yes,
tribe are those
yes,
who are thinking along the same frequency as me, and that comes from everywhere,
right.
not just someone that looks like me. And that's what I
That's
try to explain. Some will get it, and some won't, and that's okay. That's okay.
that's
But
oh,
that go ahead.
that's so perfect. Exactly what you just said. Because
Right,
the other thing they gave me, I mean, this goes on throughout time, but they said you will choose. We're talking about all of us and our
right,
world. We will
right,
choose between love and fear. And those are the only choices that we're making. Because,
right,
see, when we choose love, we are choosing ourselves. We are
right.
choosing our authentic self.
So
We're choosing who our connection to God, to source, to all that
right.
is. That's
Yes.
when we're choosing that. When
Yes.
we're choosing fear, we're choosing not to believe that.
Right. Right. Yes. Oh, wow. I'm gonna write that down. I love this. That's one of the reasons why I thoroughly enjoy doing this podcast is because I learned so much. Even, there's things that I know or think I know, just and maybe didn't quite grasp it as strongly as I should, but then someone comes along and articulates it in a certain way, then I really get it. Then
Okay,
I
I
really
got to.
get it.
You
Go ahead.
said the most perfect words right there. Uh, because no, that is what the information that I've been receiving, we want everyone to understand. And so in the last year or more, I publish my daily writings on my site, anyadvicefortoday.com. That's the site where I publish the
Say that again, please. For
any
our just
advice
our audio listeners, any advice?
for today.com. That's what it is. But if they can
Okay.
find it at my website too at rogerburnley.com, they can find all of that.
RogerBurnley.com. And that's for
Right.
everyone while we're here, just to highlight that while we're talking about that. That's RogerBurnley.com.
Correct.
Yes.
And
Go
they
ahead,
can
sir.
find, they'll see it under Wilhelm and they'll see the writings, and the ones that are there today, even, and yesterday, they're showing, they had me write messages where the information that I was given were years apart. Okay. And it's so we can accept just what you said, that we may receive information, but we don't understand it right away.
Right.
We don't accept it. We don't ingest it. We don't integrate it right away. And we can't
Right.
judge ourselves because of that,
Yes.
because that's the process of evolving. And so if we're thinking that we did something wrong or we just screwed it all up, no, that's not happening. We're always in this process of learning and developing. And they want us to accept that instead of having this self-judgment
Right.
that we weren't enough, or we're just understanding and growing. That's all. And
Right.
so
Yes.
that, yeah, so that was perfect. When people read the messages, they'll understand why they're put together that way. And
Right.
everyone will gain awareness in different ways. We all
Right.
have it.
Right.
We just will study things, we'll go to classes, mentors, coach, whatever. And so mine just came through receiving this information. I didn't
Right.
implement it all the time. I didn't believe it.
Exactly.
I didn't understand it.
Right.
And and what's weird is for me to go back and look at information that I wrote that came through me 10, 20 years ago, that then now I read it now and say, oh, now I understand it.
Right. See, and that's the same thing that happens with me. That's why I never avoid if a book is calling out to me and I start reading that book and
Mm.
there might be things in it that I don't understand, but I still read it because that information I know will come back and make more sense later. I like to read books that I feel at that moment may be above my level of understanding and
Mhm.
consciousness. I still do it. I still
Right.
read those words and absorb some of that. You know, I call it planting seeds, and eventually those seeds will grow.
There's a message that I was given about that very thing is
Right.
about understanding that that is exactly what we're doing all the time.
Right.
And yeah, no, no, that was perfect. I'm going to do something else there. Uh,
Right.
tell me, give me your, this is a crazy thing, and I'm just going to go through
Okay.
it.
Okay.
They
Okay.
said they want us to all understand our connectedness to everything. We're all connected in different
Right.
ways,
Right.
and we understand that. And so when they gave me all this information, they said, we gave you this in 2012. And they said, also, if you meet someone and we gave you a message on their birthday, it will resonate for them
Mm,
now. And I go, that
mm,
doesn't make sense.
mm.
I said,
No.
yes, and it
Yeah.
will because you're all interconnected and you just come
Wow.
to understand. And they're saying the information that they gave me was to help every person, evolve to this next level of understanding. But then we did more in giving it to each person so that they would resonate. Give me your birth, just your month and day of birth, and let me see if I have something.
Oh, September 16th.
September 16th. Let me see if
16th.
I have anything. Because I think, oh, we did put them all in, I think. So let me just see and see what comes up.
Yeah, if you need the year,
Uh,
I'll give you the year as well.
16th. Okay. Uh, oh, yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh. I'm in trouble
This is
now.
good. Nope. This is so great because this is exactly you.
Okay.
The most valuable gift that you possess is that of conscious thought.
Oh, wow. Yes.
This not merely referring to function of your physical brain, but the operation of your spiritual mind.
Mm,
Because you have conscious thought, it provides you with choice. That free will of choice then allows you to experience your life in any manner you choose.
mm,
You may be tempted to think that you are forced to think a particular way because of what occurs in your physical world. However, your conscious thought actually allows you to experience anything, any way you desire because you will interpret or perceive everything based on that conscious thought. You might think
yes.
back to past events that seem horrible to you at the time, but now have no effect. That is conscious thought. That
Right.
was the message that came through on your birthday in 2012.
And that is me too. That's where I've evolved to as well.
Yeah.
Yes, because just like you expressed earlier, you highlighted earlier, we all have trauma, but there's lots of trauma that happened in the past that no longer has that same effect on me because of how I'm thinking now.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Roger.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So yes, we have about down to about 5 more minutes. Can you give us just a little insight on what is this? I see that writing next to you, your life operating instructions. What is
Yes,
that?
when I was given okay, when I was just going through all of this in to 2021 when saying they were saying that I was given this work for this period of time and they said and we gave you a philosophy and it's called your life operating instructions
Okay,
because you have to operate in a new way to move into this new world that you're all creating. And what
right.
that means is letting go of everything that was old, everything that you judged about yourself, all the old, anything that your ancestors brought in that didn't serve the greater good.
Good.
That's what you're letting go of. And said, we gave you a philosophy to be able to do that. And you don't do it all at once, you do it over time. I doubted that. I said, that can't be real. So then I was in so much doubt about it. I went and had an Akashic Records reading done in 2021.
Yes.
And this lady, she says, "Oh yeah, we can see very clearly that you have this memory and you have all of this." And she says, "You used to be in Egypt." She was giving me all this stuff that I didn't understand.
Right.
And then she said, "You were doing this other work back then." But she says, "But now what you're meant to do is awaken the minds of people. It's
Yes.
different this time." And
Yes.
said, and you were given, and she kind of paused for a moment, and she said, and you were given an operating. And I said, and I just lost it. When those words came out of her mouth, I just broke into tears because
Right,
I thought
right.
that was a confirmation. Because they
Yes.
said, I heard very clearly, they said, we gave you this, and it's called your life operating instructions,
Wow.
how to operate for the new world. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And speaking of, you mentioned excuse me for a second. I'm
Mhm.
get off of camera right now, but you mentioned Akashic Records, and I just recently ordered a book that I haven't read yet, but this is what it says. Mhm.
Ah,
Yes,
wonderful. Yes,
yes,
yes, yes.
yep. So yes, that's amazing, and I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you, Roger, and
I am
I
thrilled
want to
you
have
did
you
this.
back on here, man. So
I definitely, I'd love it.
yeah,
Great.
yes. I love the wisdom that you enlighten us with and just your testimony and just your energies that you're sharing with us. And I just thoroughly appreciate it. It's I can
Great.
feel it. I can feel the frequency that you're emitting. It's just amazing. And it
Great.
makes me feel very good. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Is it
Thank you.
go
I,
ahead.
I just want to say something too. We're going to create something special for your guests too, and I'll send you that later too. So
Okay.
when by the time you put this up, send you something because I want your guests, anyone who's listening, to understand that they can have access to something at a little, So I'll give you
Yes.
something. I'll send you that later. So
Okay, yes, yes. Make sure you get that to me promptly
yeah, I
because
will
I'm going to start working on
definitely.
this video probably later today. So,
Great.
yes,
Perfect.
yes, yes. Thank you. So, thank you everyone for watching as well and or listening. Be sure to hit that like, that subscribe button, share this video, hit that notification bell on YouTube to keep up with the content and just help this platform grow and get this information out there. I appreciate you. Also, check out the website at 333empower.com. And if you think that you are a great fit for this podcast, shoot an email at 333 to 333empower@gmail.com. I got a little mixed up there. Yes. And also, one more time, your website, Roger Burnley.
RogerBurnley.com.
Right.
RogerBurnley. And
Yes.
everything,
Yes.
they can find everything there.
Check out that website, and I'll be sure to incorporate that address in the description of this video as well. Thank you, everyone, for
Great.
watching. Enlighten, Empowered, Evolved. See you soon. Love and appreciation to everyone. Thank you.